So I think what I'd like to do, I'd like to begin by just going in a little bit further with the way that Reverend Gale brought us in. So thank you. So in this talk, I'll be making a distinction between the inner and the outer realms. That's no stranger to this group, but maybe I'll touch on it in a slightly different way. So I'd like to begin by asking you, first of all, to just look around. Look around your home. And be aware of what you're looking at. And then I'd like to ask you to, again, close your eyes. And why do we close our eyes? It's a step inward. And all the objectivity that we were just looking at falls away. Some of it lingers in the memory. Lingers in the memory zone. A lot like old stories that we've carried all through our life. Bring your attention to your heart. This place that we recognize as a center of our being. This rhythm may be a little fast for your heartbeat, or it may be a little slow. But just simply allow it to be an audio representation of this life force energy that's cruising through you. And open wider to receive that life force energy. And bring your attention to your thoughts, because surely you are thinking. And recognize that thoughts are also objects. And make an attempt, if you can, to simply allow those thoughts to stop. And simply be. Meditation is not a doing. It is a being. We don't do meditation. We are meditation. When we can relax, simply be open to our own inner peace. And in that spacious, unlimited, infinite reality, awareness is the only thing that's present. from that place of awareness to simply look. To be awareness looking. And awareness listening. Thank you. So, if you'd like to open your eyes, please do. So, welcome everyone to my altar in my home, in my living room. Call this place Control Central. We've got Kuan Yin right there in the center of the altar. She who receives the tears of the world. This is a place where I've spent a great deal of time. And I welcome you here. So in that meditation, it went into three basic things that we all heard when we were children, and that is stop, look, and listen. Of course, we were taught that to be safe as children walking across the street. Stop, look, and listen. But now we're much older. We've crossed many, many, many streets and been on a great many paths, and we're still on a path. I know I'm speaking to people who understand the very nature of non-dual teachings. This is certainly something that we come to. But it's also something that for many is very difficult to practice. I'd venture to say every one of us. Because of something that's just been so ingrained, so deeply impressed upon us. And that is the realm of duality. And so that's really what this talk is about, is really coming to a deeper understanding of the non-dual conversation, the non-dual path, and how that touches us in our life. Particularly, and at this time of year, with the theme that basically revolves around the 4th of July theme of independence, and then saying, well, let's spin this a little bit into inner dependence. And I played around with that quite a bit, and also, looking at the word inner dependence. And there's two different definitions of dependence, and one is a dependence on something from the outside, and something that is dependent on an inner knowing. And of course, that's what we're here for. We're here to look at that realm of inner knowing, become familiar with that, and live from that, with that, completely immersed in that realm. And rather than being completely, totally fascinated with everything in the exterior, the externalization world, is at some point we begin to become a little more interested in that which is looking than that we are looking at. And I think that that's essential to make that distinction, to come to that place in life. And with meditation, certainly there is a deeper understanding. It's more than an understanding. It's an understanding that comes from experience. It's experiential. From experience comes knowing. And wow, do we have the most amazing, wonderful materials to help us with this. I got my book, Course in Miracles, right? Very much non-dual teaching. I know that we've all been involved with that. A Course of Love, yes. And also this beautiful book, The Way of Mastery. So some of us are more familiar with this material than others. It's really powerful material. A Course in Miracles talks about nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And yet here we are at this time, the 4th of July, month of July, with so much going on with COVID-19 and everything with coming to the America coming more to the realization of the inequities that exist, and hopefully to become much more transparent and much more realized in the sense that our constitutional values really don't hold water to a very large extent. And certainly this 4th of July for me, with the lack of fireworks displays, with the lack of family gatherings, and all the hoopla that goes with the 4th of July, the most notable experience that I had on the 4th of July weekend, aside from gunshots in my neighborhood, was the 8 o'clock howl. The 8 o'clock howl, that was the biggest thing that was going on. And also really coming to a much deeper understanding that in this land of the free, that not everyone is free. That the values of life, liberty, truth, justice for all is certainly not the case. And America is revolting against this. The whole world is in a state of discord. Everyone is having an experience. It's in the collective energy field, the one field, that non-dual field, that we're all feeling. So many people, I know in my work, I talk with a great many people who are really captured by fear, and I myself have experienced a good amount of fear. And I had an experience just the other night. I was really dropping in very deep, doing some deep work, and I noticed a panic that came up in me. I mean, it was definitely fear, but it was more than fear. It was the kind of fear that produces a state of panic or a state of runaway mind, I call it. It's just when I cannot stop my thoughts. It's just the thoughts are running. You know, it's that feeling sometimes that we have when we wake up in the middle of the night and we can't get back to sleep and our thoughts won't leave us alone. It's just running, running, running. And I said to myself, in the middle of that, in that panic, as my body was shaking and really having a difficult time, I said, I need some help. I need help with this. And I called on that part of me, that part of you, that part of each and every one of us, that is not separate from me, but it's a part that's quite often ignored. And that's the Holy Spirit. We know that. We know that in the literature that we read, the literature that I just held up, as the Holy Spirit. Now, when I first started hearing about the Holy Spirit, as I'm sure Many of you can identify with this. I thought the Holy Spirit, oh yeah, that's out, someone else. That's out there. That's some lofty spirit, some entity other than me. And like God out there somewhere. Or heaven is out there. It's beyond this place. Well, an interesting thing happened the other night, and that was when I called on that part of me, I immediately stopped shaking. I immediately calmed. Instantly, just calmed down. And I was a little bit shocked. And then I just heard my own inner voice saying, well, look at, you asked for it. Thank you for asking. And now you've got it. And then I went in deeper. I went into a deeper investigation, because what started this entire avalanche in the first place was an investigation of fear, because I've been having this encounter with so many people that are having fear, and many people are saying, I'm okay. I've got money. I've got food. I've got friends. I've got family. I've got the semblance of of structure. I'm not threatened. But I have this fear that's coming up in me, and it won't go away. So what I did was I really started to investigate fear, and I visualized a well that I was looking into. And I recognized this. This is just what came to my mind, and I recognized this as the well of my soul. And so I started to descend down into that. And oh yes, I had a rope. I was hanging on to a rope, because I'm going into new territory, deeper and deeper. And as I went deeper, I noticed that there was that fear was starting to come back again. And I could feel that vibration of that rope in my hand. And I realized that what that rope was the tether to my identity, the tether to who I think I am. And I recognized that rope as the rope of fear. The rope of fear. And I started to look at the construction of that rope, and it was made of many, many strands that were all together, twirled together. And each and every strand had little filaments in it too that were something else. And on deeper examination, as I began to look at that, what did I see? I saw that they were made of guilt. They're made of blame. I saw cruelty in there. I saw disappointment. I saw sorrow. I saw oppression. I saw worry. And I saw many other things as well. All in that vein, in that same painful vein. And as I looked at each and every one of those strands and every thread in there, then the making of that rope came from experiences that were unintegrated within my life and were comprised of what is known as identity, of who I think I am. And yet, the most amazing thing, as I looked deeper and deeper into this well, into this well of my soul, as I came to a place of seeing this as a perfect unfolding, as a perfect revealing, as an opportunity to really integrate this into a place in my life that is not fractured, that is whole, that is complete, that is more perfect than my normal operating system. And so I'm recognizing that there is a systems change taking place. Well, we know about, the system changes that are taking place in politics and all of that, but there's a systems change taking place in our very identity because our way of moving and operating in the world is changing. And isn't this a good thing? Isn't it a wonderful opportunity to really examine more deeply our values and our spiritual pursuits? All of us here, everyone in this broadcast is very much into spiritual pathway and pursuit. I want to read something to you, and this is out of an amazing book. It's called The Recognition Sutras. It's transcribed Sanskrit from a 1,500-year-old document. It's transcribed by Christopher Wallace, and he's got 2 books. This is the second book that he has written. It's a very scholarly book. It's quite wonderful, but it's the basis from which we have the non-dual traditions, and this comes from the area of Kashmir. And for those of you that have always wondering about the lost years of Jesus and where the teachings came from, it very much appears that if in fact he traveled into India and he stayed in the Kashmir region, that he learned, this is where the teachings, the non-dual teachings of there is only love comes from. And so I'd just like to read one little clip here, and it has to do with the central tension of spiritual life. And I believe this is so true. It's a place where, as people on the path, we get caught. And it's the urge, desire, even need to feel, the need to feel to transform ourselves. Okay, so yes, we have that feeling. We want to transform ourselves. And the equally pressing urge, desire, and need to accept and love ourselves exactly as we are. So it's obvious that these 2 vectors of spiritual life seem to be at odds with one another. It appears that you could do one but not both. You could either change or you could honor yourself exactly as you are at this moment. The paradox is that we are apparently being asked to do both simultaneously. And I think this is the time that we are in right now. I think this really captures a place where we are right now, where we're being asked to transform ourselves, and yet there's a way in which certainly I constitute transformational change within my mind and with the kind of conditioning that I've grown up with, and yet at the same time being asked to love and accept myself exactly as I am. Wow, what a big contradiction that seems to be. So this whole tradition, this whole non-dual tradition, makes a very careful exploration of this dilemma. And it comes to an insightful conclusion. I'll read this to you. The tradition tells us that when you open to the possibility of honoring yourself exactly as you are at every moment, that attitudinal stance necessarily includes honoring your transformation, because you are not a static entity. Truly accepting yourself as you are clearly encompasses accepting change. But what kind of change? With self-acceptance, you no longer seek to force change upon yourself out of a sense of not being good enough. Rather, the change and growth of which we speak is simply what naturally wants to happen. In other words, accepting yourself includes accepting whatever life's most naturally wants to do through you, moment by moment. So I love that. Uh, in this material, ancient material, 1,500 years old, all Sanskrit, translated. It says right in the very beginning of this, if you can just get the first one or two chapters of this, then you don't need to read the rest of the book. But of course, then the rest of the book goes on to unpack it. I find that fascinating. But it seems to me like, we're very much caught in this paradox of having these feelings, having these old feelings of I'm not good enough, I didn't do it right. Story, story, story. It's all strands of that rope that keep me tethered to my self-identity. And yet, I'm being called to let go of that and say, what's in that well? Of course, this brings up, a lot of work that we do. I know many of you are familiar with this idea of die before you die, particularly if you are a chaplain and you're working with people who are dying. But if you're not working with people who are dying, you're working with people who are living the best that they can and trying to die to all of these qualities that we don't like within ourselves or that we haven't forgiven. So it's, there is this sense of finding liberation, finding freedom, and finding that true inner dependence, depending on something that is quite wonderful within. That's that presence of self. So we stopped, and then we look within. So that's the wonderful thing about meditation being something that I am. Not something that I do. That's just another doing. But to just like have a break, relax, rest in natural great peace. And I want to read this poem. It's a Buddhist poem. It's a Noshio Kempo Rinpoche. It's quite wonderful. Actually, we built a whole theme around this last year at the winter solstice. Rest in natural great peace. Rest in natural great peace. This exhausted mind, beaten helplessly by karma and neurotic thought, like the relentless fury of the pounding waves in an infinite ocean of samsara. Rest in natural great peace. So in this, it has a word that perhaps not everyone's familiar with, the word samsara. And samsara represents the endless, infinite cycle of rebirthing. And I mean, you can look at that in whatever structural format you would like to. If that's rebirthing back into this life and this life over and reincarnation over and over, or if it's just continuing on in whatever way in which we continue on. But it's creation constantly moving in an infinite ocean. So I read it again. Rest in natural great peace. This exhausted mind, beaten helplessly by karma and neurotic thought. Like the relentless fury of the pounding waves in an infinite ocean of samsara. Rest in natural great peace. That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful to me. And it represents something that is a cycle in our life. It's known as the 5 acts. There's a lot written about this. The five acts are creation. It's a way in which we create. It's the creative essence, the creative form. And then that creative form then sustains itself to the best of its ability, and then it begins to dissolve. And I just wonder, with this 4th of July, Independence Day, and this opportunity to really look at what's going on, we're all having an opportunity, certainly, to a little time out for a deeper examination. Might it be that we are living in a system that is dissolving? Certainly, it's trying to on many fronts. So creation, and then sustaining, and then a process of dissolving. And then there's a concealment, an occlusion, a way of hiding. It's a way of actually forgetting. That's another word for it, forgetting. And I notice I forget. And then the last part is a remembering part. So these are the 5 cycles. This is the 5 cycles in this wheel that continues to turn. And that remembering of the essence of being. The essence of our being is love. And the opportunities that we have for access, something that's quite wonderful, that I love in the Course of Love, talks about access. And also being able to sustain, to be able to hold onto that place of connection with deeper self. This is an amazing, wonderful work and an opportunity that we all have to just simply go deeper, deeper, deeper into the truth of who we are. So I'm just, Tanya, I'm wondering about time. I don't want to overstretch myself here. So if somebody can give me a time reality, a time check, that would be wonderful.
She's saying about 5 minutes, Ron.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, pretty, I've given a sketch of stop and a sketch of looking, and the other one has to do with listening. Listening. Listening really comes out of something very key and essential, I believe, especially for this time that we are in, and that is questioning reality. Is really looking at some of the deeper questions of what is reality and what is truth. And again, this listening really is a defining moment, because it's step number 3. And so there's the stop, and that stopping has to do with stopping this relentless mind, this runaway fury of thoughts, which are really objects that are just flashing through, because why not? Because I've been conditioned to be object oriented, incredibly object oriented. I mean, I think that's part of getting a ticket to ride in the body on in this dimension, in this plane. But for most of us, it's no secret that most of the people that come to spirituality in a very sincere way are older people, people above the years 50. Certainly, it's wonderful to begin early, but to really to really honor our own path, honor this process of awakening, and to honor this process of choosing love rather than fear, the deeper examination of looking within and somehow actually coming to this incredible place of quieting this restless mind, this fury. That's a big part of the journey. And And that's where the looking comes in, and just saying, oh, looking, looking, looking. Or the listening aspect. What am I listening to here? Whose voice am I listening to? Am I listening to that deeper voice of the Holy Spirit? And recognizing that, wow, this Holy Spirit is really me. This is the part of me that already is in the knowing of love's presence, of knowing that I am love, and also knowing that comes as a result of an experience that there is only love. And another word for that is God. There is only God. So to have that experience is a blessing. And I believe that that's something that can't make it happen. This is not making. This has got nothing to do with making that happen. I can't do enough genuflex. I can't light enough candles, and I certainly do have a lot of candles that I do light. I can't burn enough sage or incense. I can't decorate my altar with more pictures of family and friends and prayer lists. That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. But something that I can open to is a trust that there is a perfect unfolding that's taking place. Now, Tony, my wife, she calls, Ron's perfect unfolding, she calls it the PU. Ron's PU. That's my perfect unfolding, but it has parts of it definitely stink. There's parts of life that are just don't work for people. It's really hard. It's really difficult. And yet, it's transformational. It's part of the transformation. It's part of this process of the 5 acts that I just read. So opening wider to meeting reality on reality's terms is where we are right now. This is where we are. We can't push it. We can't. We can fight it. Yeah, we can push it. We can fight it. We can come up with all kinds of theories. We can get involved in politics and be all angry and frustrated and create more separation. Work ourselves into a big fury of this side against that side, and this person's evil and that all that sort of stuff, and we forget that all these people, all this whatever side you're looking from, is looking at the lampshade and reacting to the lampshade and not the light. And the light's the same. I've got to be able to look deeper. Humanity, I believe, has to look deeper to see that light. So, I think it's grace. That's the word. That's what it is. And it's the answer to that paradox that I read and spoke to a little bit ago. Being caught in that crosshairs of wanting transformation, of wanting improvement. And yet, at the same time, paradoxically, to be in the place of accepting myself just how I am right now. And allowing the process of that transformation to bring about change. And certainly we're getting some time out to examine that within ourselves. And to recognize that it's the process of grace. Love only flows where love has no resistance. I think the deep examination is, and the blessing is the recognition of my own resistance. Wherever that shows up, however that shows up, is to bow into that. Say, thank you. I've just noticed how really pissed off I just got about something that happened. Something that someone said, something that someone did, really pissed me off, got really angry about it. That's resistance. And that works with a whole huge parade of attack thoughts. And I put that out. Love does not flow into there. Love flows to love. So I'll end with this blessing. Blessings to you, blessings to all beings, blessings to this earth, blessings to all that which is seen and all that which is unseen. Blessings to each and every one of us for our own intuitive nature that is rising, rising in this planet, rising into the atmosphere, rising into the universe, rising out of the universe into the oneness of everything that is, all that which is seemingly unfathomable. That love that is beyond our comprehensive conceivability from a particular point of view, but when experienced, there is only love. There is only God. That is a knowing. Blessings to your knowing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ron. Blessings to you also.